Welcome, everyone. My name is Steve Kranek. I'm from Some Product, and I want to introduce our next speaker, ABIOLA David. ABIOLA is a Microsoft Excel, Power BI, and SQL Server and Tableau consultant. He's a speaker, author, and blogger. A Microsoft Excel MVP, ABIOLA is the founder of Excel Jet Consult, a leading data analyst training firm located in Lagos, Nigeria. He has trained professionals in both public and private sector in Nigeria, and he loves to share his knowledge via blog posts, YouTube videos, answering questions in Microsoft Tech Community and other programs. So welcome, David, and thank you for the presentation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Excel Virtually Global Conference. Now, this is going to be the third year that I'm going to be participating as one of the speakers in this amazing international conference. Now, this conference brings together top experts in the world of Microsoft Excel technologies such as Excel, Power BI, and so on. And it allows participants to be able to learn from different experts during the conference. So on behalf of Liam Bastic and his team, I want to welcome you to this amazing conference for the year 2023. Now, in order to be able to participate in this conference, it is very important to do your registration. Now you can swipe over to the excelvirtuallyglobal.com to register. And of course, you can see different things like the program of events. And of course, you can see the list of speakers drawn from different Microsoft technologies. So my name is ABIOLA David. I'm a Microsoft Excel, Power BI, and SQL trainer. And I'm going to be taking you on the journey of this amazing presentation on this topic, single cell advanced formulas and using of Python in Excel. Now, I've been in Microsoft Excel MVP for the past 4 years. And of course, you can connect with me on my social media handles, such as the LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as Twitter. And of course, you can even email me on my personal email address. Now, this is what we're going to be looking at for this presentation. We're going to be looking at how to connect to datasets in SQL Server from Excel. And then we're going to go through how to write a single cell dynamic cross-tabular report in Excel. Now, we're going to go to second presentation by looking at how to append filtered list for sales that is greater than or equal to 20,000. And we're going to be doing that using the built-in functions in Excel and the brand new PY function in Excel. For the third part of the presentation, I'm going to be showing you how to filter list for sales that is between 10,000 and 20,000. And very importantly, I'm going to show you how to return specific columns using the count ifs and the array constant in Excel. So this is going to be an amazing presentation. So I'm going to ask you to just follow along as we dive into this presentation. Now, by the way, it's very important to create time to look at all the presentation of other speakers because you stand a lot to gain from the wealth of experience of all these international speakers. So without much talking, we're going to start now in Excel. Now, I'm going to come to my SQL Server Management Studio and log in into my SQL Server instance. So I'm going to show you the database and the table that we want to connect to in Excel. Now, this is SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, and this is where we write TSQL query and other things. Now, I'm just going to connect to my SQL Server using my server name, and I'm going to use the Windows authentication. Okay, so just click on Connect, and then I can see the SQL Server instance enabled with the Object Explorer. Now, I'm going to expand these databases. So I can see the list of the databases. So we actually have this database called sales data, and let's expand the tables in it. Now we actually want to connect to this fact sales table. So I'm just going to click on new query, And then I can use the use sales data database. So when I execute this, so we are right now in the sales data database. Now let's just query this fact sales table, which we're going to use. Okay, so I'm going to type in select star from. Then I can easily grab this table and drop here. I'm going to select the query and click on execute. Now this is the data set that we're going to be using in Excel. It contains 55,552 records or rows. So I'm going to swipe to Excel, and then in the presentation one sheet, I'm going to go to the data tab, and under the get and transform data group, I'm going to click on get data. And of course, we have different connectors such as from file, database, from Azure, Power Platform, online services, and other services. I'm going to swipe to the database, and I want to point to from SQL Server database. So click on that. Now, it's very important for me to provide the name of my server, which is mandatory requirement. So I'm going to type in the name of my server. And of course, I can even optionally provide the name of the database. Now, I'm going to just call it sales data. And when I click on these advanced options, I can even write SQL query in Excel, and it's going to work pretty fine. However, that's not part of what we want to cover in this presentation. So I'm going to click on OK. And certainly, so we can see all the tables in the sales data database. Now I can easily click on the fact sales table, and I can see the preview of the table's content. Now I'm going to click on transform data, and that's going to be opened in the Power Query Editor. Now in the Power Query Editor, we can see the data in a structured format. Now let's just make a little transformation. I'm going to change this date time data type to date data type. And I think that's all we need to do in terms of transformation. Now I'm going to click in the Home tab of the Power Query, click on Close and Load Tool. And then in the Import Data dialog box, we're going to load to a table, and we're going to dump that in the existing Presentation 1 worksheet. So click OK. Amazing. So we can see the data set loaded into the Presentation 1 worksheet. And of course, we can see the queries and connections to the right of the screen. We've been able to successfully load 55,552 rows. So I'm going to close this for a moment. Now, let's see how we can use this data set to create the cross-tabular dynamic report in Excel using the amazing LEat function, the HSTACK, some effects function, the to-row function, and others. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to copy this year in cell B1, Control C. I'm going to Control V in cell K1. Now we actually want to extract all the unique years from the column B. Now in the past, we probably have to do something like this to create and help a column. Now I'm going to type in equal sign and use the unique function, and I'm going to grab the entire data in column B. I'm going to close the bracket and hit Control Enter. So this is all the unique year in column B. And of course, we can even sort in ascending order by wrapping the sort function outside the unique function. And this is now sorted by default ascending. And of course, you can use the transpose function to transpose from column to row. And this is nice. You can even use the new to row function, which works just like the transpose function. Okay, now this is going to be the helper cell or row. Now we're going to create our drop down in cell L1 in the data tab. Under the data tools group, I'm going to click on data validation, and then we can specify a list under the validation criteria, and then we can grab in the source, grab the first result, put in the hash sign or the pound sign, which is a split range operator, and then click OK. So we're going to have all the list of the year in cell L1. However, in the new updates to Excel, this long journey is really not necessary or required. Now, I can easily create, for instance, the data validation by using the many records, including the duplicate records in column B. I'm just going to show you quickly. I'm going to select cell I1, click on data validation, and want to allow a list. And for the source, I'm going to grab this entire records and click OK. Now, in the past, we expect to see all the records, including duplicate records, but now we're going to see only the unique records, which works pretty fine, just like this. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this, and let's clear the content of the data validation, and then we click OK. Now we can see the year done in cell L1. So I'm going to come to cell K4 and type in the LEat function. And of course, it's going to be nice to continue in the formula bar in order to have more easier formula to read. Okay, I'm going to press Ctrl Shift U to expand the formula bar. And I'm going to press Alt Enter to jump to the next line. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to create name and assign value to that name, and then we continue. So for the name one, I'm going to call this one product, and I'm going to put in a comma. So for the value, I'm going to grab this product in column C, comma. Now we want to extract the unique sorted product from this product name. So I'm going to call this one unique sorted product, put in a comma. I'm going to use the sort function, the unique function, and I'm going to pass this name product as the array, close the unique sort, put in a comma. Now let's try to evaluate this unique sorted product. Ctrl C, I'm going to Ctrl V, I'm going to close the bracket, I'm going to click enter, and we can see we have the unique sorted product. Okay, now I'm going to delete this, our calculation, delete the bracket, alt enter. So we need to repeat the same thing for the payment type. So I'm going to call this one payment type, put in a comma. Now I want to assign the payment type in column D, put in a comma. We want to extract the unique sorted payment type. That's going to be the name, put in a comma. Now I'm going to use the sort function, the unique function, and I'm going to pass this payment type name. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, close the bracket for the unique, close the bracket for the sort function, put in a comma, and then we can evaluate this unique sorted payment type name. Ctrl V, close the bracket, and Control Enter. Now that's amazing. So we have the three product and the payment type. Okay, I'm going to delete this, our calculation, delete the bracket, also alt enter. Now we have the third criteria, which is going to be the order year. Okay, so I'm going to call this one order year, put in a comma. I'm going to assign the record in column B, put in a comma, and of course for the namesakes we have the unique year here. So I'm going to call this one unique order year, put in a comma. I'm going to click on the value in cell L1. I'm going to put in a comma. I can click on alt enter. So we actually need to store this total column inside the name. So I'm going to call this one total, put in a comma. I'm going to give the value in column G, and I'm going to put in a comma. Now we need to actually push this unique sorted payment type to the row. So I'm going to hit alt enter. I can easily copy this unique sorted payment type, Ctrl C, I'm going to come here, or Ctrl V, and then I'm going to change this name because we can't reuse the exact name again in the left. It's not going to work. So I'm going to modify this to be unique sorted payment type to row. Okay, I'm going to put in a comma. Now for the value, I'm going to use the new to row function in Excel. It works like the transpose function. So for the array, I'm going to pass this unique sorted payment type. I'm going to Ctrl C, Ctrl V, close the bracket, put in a comma. Now let's just evaluate this unique sorted payment type to row. Ctrl C, I'm going to Ctrl V here. I'm going to close the bracket for the let, alt enter. So we can see the unique payment type pushed to the row. and that's working fine. I'm going to delete this calculation and delete the bracket, alt, enter. Now, the next thing we need to do is to create a label. Now, I want to create product/payment. So I'm going to copy this product name, Control C, Control V. Now I need to modify the name. I'm just going to add product underscore header, put in a comma. Now for the name, for the value to assign, I'm going to just click on the product in cell C1. I'm going to put in a comma and to do the same thing for the payment type. So I can easily copy this payment type name, Control C, Control V, put in a comma, and then I'm going to click on the payment type, and that's working fine. Put in a comma, alt, enter. Now we actually need to concatenate the product header and the payment header with / in between. Now, before we do that, our calculation is going to have 3 layers or 3 rows. We're going to have the first row, and we're going to have the middle row and the bottom row. Now, in the top row, we want to display the product / payment type label, and then we're going to see or want to display the unique sorted payment type to row. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to just use a name, call this one, first row calc. Okay, let's just make it to be the same. Okay, so I'm going to put in a comma. Now for the value, I'm going to use the amazing horizontal stack, that is the HSTACK function. Now for the array, I'm going to use the concat function, and of course for the concat function, first argument, I'm going to copy this product header, Control C, I'm going to Control V, I'm going to put in a comma. For the text number 2, I'm going to do inside double quote with space, / space, close the double quotes, comma. Now for the text 3, I'm going to copy this payment type. Okay, we actually need to modify this to be payment type underscore header. Okay, so I can copy this now, and I'm going to paste here, Control V. So I'm going to close the concat function. I'm going to close the HSTACK for now. I'm going to put in a comma. Now we can evaluate the first row calculation, the top row, Control V. We can close the bracket, and of course we can hit enter. So we have the product / payment. Now we need to also display the unique sorted payment in the row. So I'm going to double click this formula, come to this section of the formula, put in a comma, and that activates the array number 2 argument of the HSTACK function. Now I'm just going to pass in this unique sorted payment type to row, Control C to copy, I'm going to Control V to paste after the comma, and then we can re-evaluate. So we can see we have the label and the unique sorted payment type to row. That's fine. That's going to be the first level. Now let's go to the second or the middle level, where we're going to display the unique products and of course our calculation using the sum effects function. Okay, so I'm going to come to the top cell, double click, let's get rid of this first row calculation and delete the brackets, alt enter. So I'm going to call this one middle row calc. I'm going to put in a comma. Again, I'm going to use the HSTACK function, and of course I want to display the product, so I'm going to copy this unique sorted product, Control C, I'm going to Control V. Okay, now we can easily evaluate, but let's just go ahead. I'm going to put in a comma. Now the next one to do is to use the sum ifs function. Now the sum ifs function allows us to perform the aggregation based on the 3 criteria we have. So for the sum range, I'm going to pass in this total name, comma. Now for the criteria range 1, I'm going to pass the many side of the product here. I'm going to Control C and Control V, comma. Now for the criteria 1, I'm going to just pass in the unique sorted product, Control C, Control V. Now let's close the bracket for the sum effects, and let's close the bracket for the HSTACK, and let's put in a comma and evaluate the first level or the single criteria first. Control V, the middle row calculation, close the bracket and hit Control enter. You can say it's working pretty fine. Let's just apply currency formatting. Okay, so this is the total sales by camera. Now let's come to the top cell and let's continue building the sum effects formula. Now I'm going to put in a comma. Now for the criteria range 2, I'm going to pass in the second criteria, which is going to be the payment. I'm going to call the payment. payment type, the menu side, put in a comma, and for the criteria too, I'm going to call the unique sorted payment type. We can't use this again because this has been used inside the unique sorted payment type to row. So Control C this, and I'm going to come here and Control V. I'm going to put in a comma. Now for the criteria 3, I'm going to call the order year, Control C. I'm going to come after the comma, Control V. I'm going to put in a comma. And for the criteria 3, I'm going to copy the unique order year and I'm going to come after the comma, Control V. Now let's evaluate the middle row calculation by pressing the Control Enter. And let's expand the columns, and this is working absolutely fine. That's cool. Now, this is going to be the middle row calculation. Now, let's undo the bottom row calculations. I'm going to double click the top cell, delete this middle row calculation, delete the bracket also, Alt Enter. Now, let's just increase the formula bar. Now, I'm going to call this one bottom row calc, put in a comma. Again, I'm going to use the HSTACK function. Now, in the HSTACK function, we want to create a label, and the label is going to be inside the double quotes. We're going to call it total. What's the double quotes? Put in a comma, and for the array number 2, I'm going to use the sum effects function. It's going to aggregate the products at the column level, the payment type at the column level. So some ifs, again for the sum range, I'm going to call it total name, put in a comma. Now for the criteria range 1, I'm going to call the payment type, the menu side, which is exactly what we have here, put in a comma. And for the criteria 1, I'm going to call the unique sorted payment type to row, Control C that, Control V. I'm going to put in a comma. Now for the criteria range 2, I'm going to call the order year name, comma. For the criteria 2, I'm going to call the unique order year. I'm going to close the bracket for the sum ifs. And then I'm going to close the bracket for the HSTACK. I'm going to put in a comma. I'm going to copy this bottom row calculation name. I'm going to paste here, close the bracket for the LEat, Control Enter. And of course, we can see this is going to be the aggregate of the payment type, okay, at the column level. So that's going to be it. So we are almost rounding off with this first presentation. I'm going to double click this, and then I'm going to delete this bottom row calculation, delete the closing bracket, Alt Enter. Now we need our final calc and comma. Now we need to begin to vertically stack all the 3 levels, the first level, middle level, and the bottom level. So we're going to use the HSTACK. Now for the array 1, I'm going to copy this first row calc, Control C, Control V. I'm going to put in a comma. And for the middle row calc, I'm going to copy that. That's going to be the array number 2 of the HSTACK, Control V. I'm going to put in a comma. So for the array number 3, I'm going to copy this bottom row, Control C. I'm going to come here, Control V. I'm going to close the VSTACK. I'm going to put in a comma, and then we can evaluate the final calculation. So we can close off the LEat function, and then we can deploy the Control Enter. And that's it. So we've been able to create our cross-tabular sales report. Now let's just apply currency formatting, Control Shift 4. And that will fine. So we can see the total sales by product, payment type, and year. So we can easily say for the year 2017, the total sales generated for the product that equals to camera and payment type that equals to Google Pay, the total sales is 16,732,930. And of course, when you grab all this and you check the status bar, you can see that we have 127,130,640, which is exactly the total here. Now I'm just going to paint these. I'm going to hide them. Let's come to the Home tab and let's use the font color. Let's paint them in white just to hide them. Now let's collapse the formula bar and let's change to, let's say, 2020. You can see the formula dynamically update, and that's cool. Now, even when I come to the SQL server, I can easily modify one of the table. Let's say I actually want to update one of the payment type from Skrill to PayPal. So I can easily, call the table. I can say update. I'm going to copy this, the name of the table, Ctrl V, set payment type equal to inside, single quote. Let's say we want to change the Skrill to, PayPal. So pay, pal. Okay, let's make it, nice. Okay. So we're going to use the where clause. We're going to say where the payment type. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, Ctrl C and Ctrl V is equal to inside single quote, Skrill. Okay, let's type it accurately, Skrill, and then we can grab this query, the updates, and click on execute. You can see 21,504 rows affected. Okay, now when I re-evaluate this and execute, we can see the Skrill has been replaced with PayPal. So when I come to my Excel and I update the data that we extracted from the SQL using the Power Query, when I right click and I choose refresh, see what's going to happen, you can see the Skrill changed to PayPal. That is absolutely wonderful. It's completely dynamic. So let's go to the second presentation. In this second presentation, I'm going to show you how to append filtered list for sales that is greater than or equal to £20,000. And we're going to see how to use the new PY, that is the Python function, to achieve that in Excel. So let's get started. Now, just like we did, we have the data set stored in an Excel table. Now, in the table design, the first table is called Sales 2021, the second one is 2022, and this is 2023. Now, we can easily use the let function to achieve that, but because of time, let's just see how to do that in the py Python function. So I'm going to come to cell M1, I'm going to type in the equal sign py. Now, the py function creates Python formulas in Excel, and that is quite amazing. So I'm going to press the tab key, and the moment I do that, I can see that we have this py and with this banded coloring green. Now this simply means that we are right now in the Python environment, which is synonymous to independent development environment like the PyChart, the Jupyter Notebook, and so on. Okay, so we can write our Python code in Excel, which is cool. Now the first thing I want to do is to define some variable. I'm going to call it df1. Okay, now I'm going to store the records, the first table. I'm going to store it inside the df1. Okay, now I actually selected the data set 1, 2, and it must include the headers. So we can say the headers is equal to true. I'm going to click enter. Now I'm going to call the second one df2, put in a comma or put in an equal sign. I'm going to store this second sales 2022 data. So click twice, 1, 2. Make sure the headers are included. It's very important. Put in a comma. So for the df3, I'm going to store the sales 2023 there. Okay, put in a comma. Now, the first thing I want to do is we want to actually filter the df1. So I'm going to call it df1 underscore filtered, and I'm going to put in an equal sign. Now, to filter, I'm going to call the df1 again. Open a square bracket. I'm going to say df1, and then inside the square bracket, we want to access the sales column. Now, columns or values are case sensitive in Python. Okay, so this sales is actually in proper case. So the first letter is in capital letter S. So we must type it exactly the way it is written in the cell, in the values, okay, in the column. So inside single quotes, I'm going to call, oops. So I'm going to call it, sales, put in the single quotes, and then we can close off the column. All right, now I'm going to use the to math operator greater than or equal to. So I want to check, is this sales column, is it greater than or equal to 20,000? So put in the 20,000. okay, and then we can close off the second square bracket for this. Okay, now let's try to evaluate this first df1 underscore filtered. So I'm going to call it df1, so we can even see the intelligence working pretty fine, and that's quite amazing. So I'm going to press the tab key, and of course we can hit on the keyboard control enter to commit the value into a data frame object. So we can see we have the data frame object returned. Now we can easily come to this, Python object and turn the Python object to an Excel value, and we can see this is working, pretty fine. So we have the filtered, records for the sales that is equal to or greater than 20,000. So we've been able to achieve the first, result. Now this is what is called the index, and that's how Python, works. So we're going to take care of this index when we use the pd.concat, function. Okay, so I'm going to come to the top cell. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to do the same thing for the df2 and df3. So I'm going to copy these, Ctrl C. I'm going to come here. I'm going to Ctrl V and Ctrl V. So we're going to replace this df1 to df2. So we're going to replace df1 to df2. We're going to replace df1 to df2. And of course, we're going to replace this to df3. I'm going to replace this to df3. I'm going to replace this to df3. And then we can go ahead and define a variable for our final calculation. So I'm going to call this one final calc. So I'm going to use the pd.concat function, open a bracket. Now, in order to be able to iterate or loop through each of these df1 filtered, df2 filtered, and so on, I'm going to open a square bracket. I'm going to copy df1 underscore filtered, Ctrl V, comma, df2 underscore filter, Ctrl V, comma, df3 underscore filter, and I'm going to come here, Ctrl V, close the square bracket. So I'm going to put in a comma. Now I want to undo the index, so I'm going to say ignore underscore index. So we're going to set down to true. Okay, and let's close the bracket. I'm actually expecting the intelligence, to work. Okay, now let's just evaluate this final calc. I'm going to come bottom here and Ctrl V. Now let's Control Enter, and we can see it works pretty fine. So we can see the filtered record for the year 2021. We can see for the year 2022 and the year 2023. So we need to filter and append at the same time. So that's so awesome. Now let's jump to the presentation number 3. We want to see how to filter the list for sales between 10,000 and 20,000 and return specific columns. We're going to use the count ifs and the array constants. So I'm going to come here. Now I'm going to just type in the filter function for the array. I'm going to give this entire records. I'm going to put in a comma. Now, since we are doing between operation, I'm going to open a bracket. I'm going to check the sales column. Are you sales column? Are you greater than or equal to the lower limit 10,000? Close the bracket. Use the and operation, which is the multiplication sign. Open the second criteria. I'm going to check, are you the sales column, are you less than or equal to 20,000? I'm going to close the bracket. I'm going to close the bracket for the filter and Control Enter. Now you can see we have all the columns returned. However, we want to return this date, product, and sales column. So I'm going to open the formula. I'm going to wrap another filter function outside. This is going to be the input value of the array arguments. I'm going to come here. I'm going to put in a comma. Now I'm going to use the count ifs function as the input value of the include argument of the second filter. So for the criteria range 1, I'm going to select this 3 columns, put in a comma. So for the criteria 1, I'm going to select the original columns from the data set, close the count ifs, close the filter, and then Control Enter, and that's amazing. So you can see it's working pretty fine. Now it is completely dynamic. Now let me copy this, payment type and paste here. You can see it dynamically updates. Now another way you can achieve this is to use the array constant, which is not dynamic. So I'm going to just come to the formula. I'm going to copy everything, Ctrl C, escape. I'm going to come here, I'm going to paste. Okay, so instead of using this count ifs, you can easily open a square bracket. So we're going to use 1 to represent the date column that we want to pull across, put in a comma, one to represent the product column we want to pull across. Now we do not want the payment unit price. So I'm going to put in 0, 0, 0, comma. So for the sixth column, the sales, I'm going to put in 1 to return that. Close the bracket for the curly bracket, close the bracket for the second filter, and control enter. So you can see that we achieve the same results. Let's just paint this using the format painter, expand the column. So you can see this probably the best way to return specific column because it is completely dynamic. So that is all that I have as part of my presentation for you. I hope you've learned something new in this presentation. So if you want to hook up with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, using my mail, or you can even connect with me on my YouTube channel. So I wish you wonderful learning. Thank you and bye for now. Cheers.